On the news, federal government approves request to extradite Abba Kyari as NDLEA files 8 charges against the suspended DCP. Federal government reconstitutes team to renegotiate 2009 ASU agreement. And Ukraine-Russia hold second peace talks. Well, it's good to have you join us on the news. I am Folashade Ogurinde. 8 charges have been filed against the suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police, Abba Kyari, and 6 others over their involvement in alleged drug trafficking. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency filed the charges before a federal high court in Abuja. The development comes as the federal government has commenced moves to extradite Kyari to face fraud charges in the United States of America. The Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, filed an extradition application at the Federal High Court in Abuja, following a request by the diplomatic representative of the U.S. Embassy in Abuja. The request from the U.S. authorities, according to Malami, is for the surrender of Abba Kyari, who is the subject in a superseding 3-count indictment. Well, with discussion centered around the possible release of Kyari to be extradited to the U.S., I'm now joined on the news by Nelson Ekujimi, political affairs analyst. Thank you very much for joining us. Help us understand the conditions surrounding the initial refusal to extradite Kyari and a sudden agreement to have him extradited now.
Well, I don't think, thank you very much for having me. I don't think there was an initial refusal to extradite Abba Kyari. Don't forget, Abba Kyari is a serving officer in an institution called the Nigerian Police Force. And you know that institution has its own, mechanism, its own process and procedures. And if any of its officers has been indicted by an external body to that institution, it behoves on the institution itself to carry out an investigation to determine the culpability of such an officer. Sure, it is because internal, disciplinary investigative system. That is why we had all this delay. And maybe right now it has become convinced that, Abba Kyari really has a case to answer, and that is why the extradition is being, given the necessary attention it deserves.
Now, with the federal government approving a request for Kyari's extradition and the NDLEA filing charges against him, how do you see this playing out?
Well, from our law books, it is stated clearly that, a Nigerian who is standing trial before a court of law cannot be extradited until his trial has been dispensed of. In this case, before the extradition request that the Attorney General of the Federation took to the Federal High Court, there was no, Abba Kyari was not standing trial. And if that request has been made before the filing of charges against him, commonsensically, it behoves on us all to know that, the request for extradition comes before the trial. So in that case, the extradition will come first, of which he will be extradited, and, the internal trial, the local trial that NDLEA is filing charges against him, will have to wait until the case in the U.S. is disposed of after he's, extradited. That is the right thing to do. That is the natural thing to do.
Well, Nelson Ekujimi, political affairs analyst, thank you very much for your contribution. President Muhammadu Buhari has called for broader action to overcome climate change, biodiversity, rising pollution levels and waste. Buhari said this in a congratulatory message to special session to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the United Nations. The president also said the coming of the United Nations Environmental Programme 50 years ago created awareness on the need to make climate and environmental action a priority for the entire world.
Nations are constantly facing the threats of disrupted weather patterns, low food production, and rising sea levels that increase the risk of catastrophic flooding, among other challenges. In that regard, Nigeria pledged to work with other countries in achieving the goals of the Paris Agreement, and in doing so has increased her conditional contribution to reduce greenhouse gas from 45% to 47%. Additionally, I outlined Nigeria's efforts and commitments towards transitioning to net zero emission, which involve both environment and development-related plans. As we celebrate the 50th anniversary of United Nations Environment Programme's existence, we laud the efforts of United Nations Environment Programme and encourage broader action to outcome climate change, biodiversity, rising levels of pollution, and waste being three major crises threatening our planet.
Following President Muhammadu Buhari's departure to Kenya for the 50th anniversary of the United Nations Environmental Programme, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo presided over the weekly Federal Executive Council meeting at the Council Chambers in Abuja. At the meeting, Minister of Women Affairs Pauline Tallen revealed that the federal government has approved a revised national gender policy to promote gender equality, good governance and accountability across the three tiers of government in the country. Our correspondent Mujisala Matomi has the details.
Barely 24 hours after the National Assembly failed to pass 4 bills aimed at promoting more opportunities for women in politics and governance, the Federal Executive Council gave approval for a revision of the national gender policy. At the end of the FEC meeting, the Minister of Women Affairs, Pauline Tallen, who expressed their disappointment with male lawmakers for their lack of support, said the policy aims to promote gender equality, good governance and accountability across the three tiers of government in the country.
This memo is a revised National Gender Policy 2021 to 2026. It represents a set of minimum standards expected of Nigerian government to meet its mandate for gender equality, good governance, accountability, and being socially responsive to the needs of its vulnerable group. I want to put on record that Mr. President has done so much to support the young women through its numerous pro-women projects.
Beyond gender policies, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development revealed that a memo on national policy for the protection and assistance of trafficked persons in Nigeria was also approved.
These memos are very essential to what the NAPTIP do, that's the National Agency for the Trafficking in Persons, and they will help to guide our work and action as regards to the protection and assistance of trafficked persons. The two memos were graciously approved by Council.
For the aviation sector, the Council gave approval for 3.5 billion naira high-capacity passenger screening equipment for the country's major airports, including Lagos, Abuja, and Kano.
Approval for the supply and installation of 2 sets of complete high-capacity passengers security screening systems in Lagos and Abuja. The sum is 1,193,630,980 naira. And then for the second approval for the supply and installation of airfield ground lighting materials for Muritala Mohammed Airport in Lagos, Nnamdi Azikiwe in Abuja, and Malama Aminu Kano in Kano, the contract sum is 2,329,961,099 naira 60 kobo.
With the Russian invasion of Ukraine displacing millions of residents, the Council approved $8.5 million to help in the evacuation efforts of Nigerian citizens who are expected to arrive in the country on Thursday. Mujisala Matomi, TV360 News.
The federal government has appointed Nigerian academic Nimi Briggs to lead the government renegotiation team with the Academic Staff Union of Universities ASU on the 2009 agreement it had with the union. Minister of Education Adamu announced the reconstitution of the committee on Thursday in Abuja as part of the federal government's effort to get the striking university lecturers back to work. Director of Press and Public Relations, Federal Ministry of Education, Ben Bemgun, in a statement quoted the minister saying there was a need to speedily bring to conclusion all outstanding issues in the 2009 agreement in order to achieve the desired industrial peace on the Nigerian campuses. It disclosed that a team would re-inaugurate by the ministry on Monday, March 7 in Abuja. Well, moving on, former chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Atahiru Jega, has called for a reinforced commitment and active engagement of Nigerian workers for the rescue and emancipation of the country. Jega made the call at the Nigeria Labour Congress 2022 Workers Political Conference in Abuja. Our correspondent, Mary Kanu, has the details.
It is a gathering of the Nigeria Labour Congress and its affiliate unions seeking political engagement with the ruling class with a view to producing better leadership for Nigeria. The union at its 2022 Workers' Political Conference in Abuja called for restructuring that would bring good governance, sustainable development as the country approaches the 2023 general elections and beyond. The NLC president says the organized labor is concerned about the reconstruction of the critical bridge of issue-based politics that accommodates the interests of Nigerian workers and people.
Our determination is that in the run-up to 2023 election, we must not allow professional politicians, as the MC have said, to evade critical question of national development. This is why we have developed a Workers' Charter of Demand. Our Charter of Demand prioritizes equity, fairness, and social justice for all. Our Charter of Demand asks for free and quality education to tertiary level for every Nigerian child. Our Charter of Demand insists that every Nigerian should have access to free and qualitative health care from cradle to grave. Our Charter of Demand makes the argument for the kind of restructuring that brings sustainable development to real Nigerians currently struggling with slum.
Former chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission says Nigeria is at a point in its history when credible national development should be on the front burner of national discourse.
Nigerian citizens generally, and the working people in particular, can either continue to play the ostrich on the current trajectory of reckless, senseless, visionless journey towards democratic and socio-economic development and allow the country free fall into imminent self-destruction, which is clearly in sight, or, and this is the big O, they have to wake up, rise and join hands in solidarity for struggles and active engagement in the political process towards national emancipation from what I call the devilish alliance of exploiters.
I urge every Nigerians, workers, to take the re-engagement seriously. We can use our numerical advantage to correct the many ills of society and injustice against the working class that we have been complaining.
The NLC president also presented a charter of demands which, according to him, seeks answers to the questions of development in Nigeria to prioritize equity, fairness, and social justice. Mary Kanu, TV360, Nigeria.
Meanwhile, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says it will continue to deploy innovations to improve the nation's electoral process. INEC Chairman Mahmoud Yakubu voiced the commitment during a meeting with a delegation from the European Union Election Observation Mission in Abuja. Yakubu said several reforms by the Commission, including the creation of additional polling units, were initiated from the recommendations by the EU Election Observation Mission and like-minded organizations after the conduct of the 2019 general elections. On her part, the leader of the delegation and the EU chief election observer, Maria Arena, promised continued support to deepen Nigeria's democratic process.
We must admit that in many states we are struggling to achieve a more balanced distribution of voters to the new polling units. However, this is a priority project for the Commission, which will be accomplished before the 2023 general election. Clearly, the biggest progress made by the Commission since 2019 is in the area of deepening the deployment of technology in elections. INEC is the first electoral commission in West Africa, if not Africa as a whole, to upload polling unit level results to a portal in real time on election day. We also have made a huge progress in the area of voter accreditation through the deployment of the bimodal voter accreditation system, the BVAS. We will continue to carry out more pilot tests of the BVAS and deploy the same device in the forthcoming Ekiti and Osun governorship elections and ultimately the 2023 general election.
You will have important reforms in the country for the next election in 2023. And this is really important for us to see also the way INEC contributed on this electoral act. And also you did it with important stakeholders like civil society working on this change in the country.
And now to legislative matters. President of the Senate, Hamad Lawan, has urged President Muhammadu Buhari to transmit a bill to the National Assembly to amend the Petroleum Industry Act, PIA. Lawan made the call in his remarks moments before he referred the President's request for the amendment of the 2022 Appropriation Act to the Committee on Appropriation after the bill's killed second reading. According to him, a request seeking an amendment to the PIA would enable the National Assembly extend the subsidy regime in the Petroleum Industry Act.
Speak to the issue of the executive sending request for the amendment of the Petroleum Industry Act to extend the provision of the fuel subsidy, which is also requested in the amendment, because the act itself says something else, that there will be no subsidy again. But if we are approving for subsidy, then it means we have to extend the period in which government will provide subsidy up to the point that this subsidy that will approve 2.557 trillion will last. So there is need for the executive to come up with requests for amendment, or our committee, gas and oil related committee, should work with the executive side of government to get that sorted out as quickly as possible, so that what we do is appropriate and is lawful and legal.
I'll take a break here, but still to come, NNPC tells Nigerians to avoid panic buying, says 1.7 billion litres of petrol in stock. Details of the story and more right after this break. Welcome back. Now here is a recap of some of our top stories tonight. 8 charges have been filed against the suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police Abba Kyari and 6 others over their involvement in alleged drug trafficking. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency filed the charges before a federal high court in Abuja. The development comes as the federal government has commenced moves to extradite Kyari to face 4 charges in the United States of America. We also told you that the federal government has appointed Nigerian academic Nimi Briggs to lead the government renegotiation team with the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, on the 2009 agreement it had with the union. Minister of Education Adamu announced the reconstitutions of the committee on Thursday in Abuja as part of the federal government's efforts to get the striking university lecturers back to work. But in case you missed any of our news bulletin or for more updates, do log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube and Google Plus at TV360 Nigeria. On Facebook, we are TV360 Online. The World Health Organization, WHO, says COVID-19 triggered a 25% increase in anxiety and depression globally in the first year of the pandemic, citing the stress caused by social isolation as a major explanation for the increase. Director General of the World Health Organization, Tedros Ghebreyesus, said loneliness, suffering and deaths in the family were major factors fueling anxiety and depression. He also noted that females were more affected than males and that younger people, especially those aged between 20 and 24, were more affected than older adults.
The effects of the pandemic go far beyond the death and disease caused by the virus itself. In particular, COVID-19 has taken a heavy toll on mental health. A new WHO report estimates that in the first year of the pandemic, the global prevalence of anxiety and depression increased by more than 25%. The greatest increases in depression and anxiety were found in places that were the most affected by COVID-19, where infections were high and social interaction was restricted. Our review found that females were more affected than males, and younger people, especially those aged between 20 and 24, were more affected than older adults. This increase in the prevalence of mental health problems coincided with severe disruptions to mental health services and underscored chronic underinvestment in mental health, leaving huge gaps in care for those who need it most.
Well, we'll take a pause here and return with more stories and business. To stay with us. Well, up next is business news and stock market review with Abisola Adibayo. Over to you, Bisola.
Thank you very much, Folashade. Welcome to Business News. Amid the seeming problem of limited fuel supply in the country, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC Limited, has cautioned Nigerians to avoid panic buying. Shortly after a meeting with the National Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, NUPENG, and petrol tankers drivers on Wednesday, Group Managing Director of the NNPC, Mele Kyari, told journalists that the country has the capacity to load out trucks excessively from all depot to fill the supply gap facilitated by panic buying. Kyari said there is an availability of about 1.7 billion liters of petrol currently in stock, adding that there is a process on ground to ensure 24 hours loading in all depot of supply. Well, we'll take a break now and return with a review of the stock market. Today, we are having a further pullback in the market where the all-share index is down by 0.14%, but still above the 47,000 support level, giving the bear more moments to shine today. The market cap lost about 30-something billion naira to close at 25 trillion naira at the close of trading. The slump points to market correction as the top three stocks on the losers table featured among those that have currently garnered appreciable gains, a reflection of investors' preference for cashing in on small gains rather than plowing more money into stocks. RT Briscoe was the pivot of today's slide, followed by CAP PLC, as they led the losers counter, recording a combined 2 naira 2 kobo loss. On the flip side, as the gainers table for today, ABC Transnational and Lasaco led the gainers counter with a combined 11 kobo gain at the close of today's trading, with the activity chart mostly in the red with about 7,056 still. The market volume, the market summary says a total volume of 243 million units of shares valued at about 6.8 billion naira exchanging hands today in 5,620 deals. Well, hopefully tomorrow there'll be a better outing tomorrow. On the foreign scene, as the FTSE, the Dow Jones and the Nikkei, the handful of remaining Russia-linked stocks trading in London were struggling to stay afloat on Thursday as the Russian invasion in Ukraine dragged to an 8th day, which is why the FTSE continues its bearish trading today. The Dow Jones, in the same vein, also fell into the red, reversing earlier gains on Thursday as uncertainty continued to whip markets. But it's a different story in Japan, where the Nikkei is recording a 0.70% increase. That's all on stock market report. Over to you, Folashade, for the rest of the news.
Well, many thanks, Bisola. And on the foreign scene, a second round of peace talks is ongoing as a Ukrainian delegation has met with Russian authorities for second round of ceasefire talks on the Belarus-Poland border. Russian President Vladimir Putin has, however, vowed not to let up in his invasion of Ukraine on Thursday, even as Ukraine lost its first major city to Russian forces, with casualties mounting. The invasion, now in its 8th day, has created a refugee exodus and turned Russia into a global pariah in the worlds of finance, diplomacy and sports. Well, up next is Entertainment Report on News Now.
Nigerian music singer Timaya has allegedly been arrested following a hit-and-run accusation from an Instagram user. On Wednesday, an Instagram user named Oshinobi Omomi, who claimed to be the sister of the victim, accused the music star of ramming his car into her sister. Omomi also accused him of blocking her on Instagram when she tried to reach out to him and shared a video of her sister receiving treatment at an undisclosed hospital after the incident. On Thursday, a video of security operatives taking away the singer from a building believed to be his house surfaced online. Timaya has now broken his silence over his arrest. According to Timaya, after the lady accused him of eating her car, he came out to collect her phone number so they could settle the matter amicably. He said he was trying to collect the phone number from the lady when he saw 4 men running towards him, and in an attempt to avoid being robbed, he drove off in panic. Euphoria 360 and Ant Hill Studios have unveiled the official trailer for their debut collaboration, King of Thieves, co-directed by Adebayo Tijani and Tokba Adebayo Salami. The epic drama showcases a star-studded cast, including Toyi Abraham, Femi Adebayo Salami, Odunlade Adekola, Adedimeji Lateef. Not much is known about the film's plot except that it will follow the story of Yoruba mythological character Odu Ogbe. And that is all that we have for you on the entertainment segment of News Now.
And in sports, Nigeria's national female basketball team, the Tigress, will again face France after they were paired in Group B of the 2022 Women's World Cup after the draws took place on Thursday in Australia. Nigeria defeated France last month during the qualification tournament for the World Cup, where the 12 best women's basketball teams will battle at the 2022 FIBA Women's World Cup, scheduled to run from September 22 to October 1st, 2022. Nigeria's best outing at the competition was a last 8 appearance in Spain in 2018. And that's the size of our news bulletin. Many thanks for watching. I'm Folashade. Well, great day. Bye for now.